Imagine holding a weapon so advanced that Allied soldiers would drop their own rifles to pick it up on the battlefield. Now imagine another weapon so terrible that soldiers nicknamed it the Hitler Saw, because it killed its own crews almost as often as it killed enemies. German firearms in World War II ranged from revolutionary masterpieces that changed warfare forever to catastrophic failures that wasted resources and cost lives. Some were so good they remained in service for decades after the war. Others were so bad they were abandoned after a few months. Today we're ranking every major German gun from World War II, from worst to best. And trust me, this list will surprise you. Because the guns you think were the best? They might not be. And the weapons Hollywood made famous? Some of them were actually pretty terrible in real combat. We're talking pistols, rifles, machine guns, submachine guns, the complete arsenal. We'll look at what made them effective or useless, what soldiers actually thought of them, and which weapons genuinely changed warfare. By the end, you'll understand why German firearms dominated some categories while failing spectacularly in others. You'll know which weapons Allied soldiers feared most and which ones they laughed at. Let's start at the bottom with the worst German firearms of the war. Coming in at the absolute bottom, the Volkssturm weapons of 1944-45. These weren't really military-grade firearms. They were desperate attempts to arm civilians with whatever could be manufactured quickly and cheaply. The Volkssturmgewehr VG-1-5 was perhaps the worst. A semi-automatic rifle made from stamped metal and wood. It jammed constantly, broke easily, and was inaccurate beyond 100 meters. German soldiers called it last ditch, for a reason. You only used it if you had literally nothing else. Why does this rank last? Because it represented the complete collapse of German military manufacturing. This wasn't innovation, this was desperation. Allied soldiers who captured these weapons didn't even bother keeping them as souvenirs. They were that bad. Just slightly better, the Gewehr 41. This was Germany's first attempt at a semi-automatic rifle, and it was a disaster. It was heavy, over 11 pounds. It was unreliable, fouled easily and jammed constantly. It was complicated, field stripping required tools and expertise. German soldiers hated it. When the improved Gewehr 43 came out, units couldn't get rid of their G41s fast enough. The G41 proved that German engineering could fail spectacularly when they overcomplicated simple problems. But here's where it gets interesting. Not all German firearms were failures. In fact, some categories saw German weapons absolutely dominating their Allied counterparts. The Luger P08 pistol. Yes, the famous Luger. Hollywood loves it. Collectors pay thousands for it. But as an actual combat weapon? It was mediocre at best. The Luger was accurate and well made, but it had serious problems. It was expensive to manufacture. The toggle lock mechanism was sensitive to dirt and mud, terrible for trench warfare. The 8-round magazine capacity was below average. And the grip angle, while comfortable for target shooting, wasn't ideal for quick combat shooting. German soldiers respected the Luger but didn't love it. When the Walther P38 became available, most preferred it. The Luger's reputation comes mostly from its distinctive look and early adoption, not from superior combat performance. The Walther P38 was actually better in almost every way. It was cheaper to make, more reliable in field conditions, easier to field strip, and used the same 9mm ammunition. But because it looked more conventional, it never achieved the Luger's fame. Both pistols rank in the lower middle tier because, honestly, pistols rarely decide battles. They were backup weapons. What mattered far more were the rifles and machine guns. The Kar98k, Germany's standard infantry rifle throughout the war. This weapon equipped millions of German soldiers and fired billions of rounds. Was it the best rifle of the war? No. Was it terrible? Absolutely not. It was a solid, reliable bolt-action rifle that got the job done. The Kar98k was accurate up to 500 meters with iron sights. It was rugged and reliable in all conditions. Mud, sand, snow, heat. It was relatively easy to manufacture and maintain. German soldiers could field strip it blindfolded. But it had limitations. It was bolt-action in a war where semi-automatics were becoming standard. The 5-round magazine capacity was low compared to the American M1 Garand's 8 rounds. Reloading required manual loading of individual rounds or stripper clips, slower than detachable magazines. Still, the Kar98k served Germany well throughout the war. It ranks solidly in the middle tier. Not revolutionary, not terrible, just a competent military rifle that did its job reliably. The Gewehr 43 deserves mention here too. Germany's successful semi-automatic rifle. It fixed the G41's problems and provided German infantry with firepower comparable to the American Garand. But it came too late and in too small numbers to really impact the war. Had it been available in 1941? This ranking would be very different. Now we're getting to the weapons that were genuinely impressive. Starting with the MP40 submachine gun. The MP40, often incorrectly called the Schmeisser, was Germany's standard submachine gun. And it was excellent for its intended role. What made the MP40 good? It was cheap and fast to manufacture using stamped metal parts. It was reliable in field conditions. It was accurate for a submachine gun, controllable in burst fire out to 100 meters. The folding stock made it perfect for vehicle crews and paratroopers. The 32-round magazine was reasonable capacity. The 9mm ammunition was readily available. And the weapon was simple enough that soldiers could maintain it with minimal training. Allied soldiers often picked up captured MP40s and used them. That's always the best sign of a weapon's quality, when enemies choose it over their own issued weapons. But the MP40 had limitations. Magazine feeding could be problematic if loaded to full capacity. The open bolt design wasn't ideal for accuracy. And production never met demand. Many German soldiers never received one. Still, the MP40 ranks in the upper middle tier as an excellent submachine gun that served its purpose well throughout the war. Now we reach the weapons that were truly revolutionary. These didn't just serve their purpose. They changed warfare itself. The MG42 machine gun. There's a reason Allied soldiers called it Hitler's buzzsaw. This weapon was arguably the best machine gun of World War II, and its design influenced machine guns for the next 80 years. What made the MG42 special? The rate of fire, 1,200 rounds per minute. That's 20 rounds per second. The sound was distinctive and terrifying. Allied soldiers who heard it never forgot it. But speed isn't everything. The MG42 was also reliable, using a roller-delayed blowback system that worked in all conditions. It was relatively lightweight at 25 pounds, portable for a crew-served weapon. It could be quickly converted from bipod to tripod mounting. And barrel changes took only seconds, allowing sustained fire. The MG42 was also efficient to manufacture using stamped metal parts and modern production techniques. Germany produced over 400,000 of them during the war. Allied soldiers feared the MG42. When captured, they used them. After the war, the design was adopted as the MG3 and remains in service with some militaries today. The MG42 ranks near the top because it achieved something rare, a perfect balance of firepower, reliability, and manufacturability. It was a masterpiece of weapons design. But there's one German weapon that ranks even higher. One weapon that was so advanced, so revolutionary, that it changed the entire concept of infantry combat. The Sturmgewehr 44, literally, Assault Rifle 44. This was the world's first true assault rifle, and it revolutionized warfare. Why does the STG-44 rank at the top? Because it solved a problem that had plagued militaries for decades: the gap between rifles and submachine guns. Rifles like the Kar98k were accurate at long range but slow to fire and awkward in close combat. Submachine guns like the MP40 were great for close quarters but ineffective beyond 100 meters. The STG-44 bridged this gap. It fired an intermediate cartridge, more powerful than pistol ammunition but less than full rifle ammunition. This allowed controllable automatic fire while maintaining an effective range out to 300 meters. The design was brilliant: 30-round detachable magazine, select fire capability, manageable weight at 11 pounds, and effective in all combat ranges from close quarters to medium distance. German soldiers who received the STG-44 loved it. It gave one soldier the firepower of both a rifleman and a submachine gunner. Squad tactics changed around it. But here's the tragic part for Germany: it came too late. The STG-44 wasn't introduced until 1944, and only about 425,000 were produced before war's end. Had this weapon been available in 1941, the Eastern Front might have looked very different. Let me give you the complete ranking from worst to best. Bottom tier * Volkssturm weapons, Gür 41. Lower middle tier * Luger P08, Walther P38 early pistols. Middle tier * Karabiner 98k, Gür 43, standard rifles. Upper middle tier * MP40, MP38, submachine guns. Top tier * MG42, MG34 machine guns. Peak tier * Sturmgewehr 44. But rankings don't tell the whole story. We need to understand context. Why did Germany excel in some categories and fail in others? German weapons development reflected their military philosophy: quality over quantity, versatility, and firepower concentration. The emphasis on machine guns wasn't accidental. German infantry doctrine centered on the MG34 and later MG42. The rifle squad existed to support the machine gun, not the other way around. This was revolutionary thinking. Compare this to Allied doctrine. The Americans built tactics around the rifleman with the M1 Garand. The British similarly emphasized individual marksmanship. But Germans built tactics around crew-served weapons providing a base of fire. This is why the MG42 ranks so high. It wasn't just a good weapon, it was the centerpiece of German infantry tactics. Everything else supported it. The development of the STG-44 reflected lessons learned on the Eastern Front. German commanders realized that most combat happened at ranges under 300 meters. Full-power rifle cartridges were overkill. An intermediate cartridge allowing automatic fire made more sense. This thinking was decades ahead of its time. The STG-44 directly inspired the Soviet AK-47, which in turn influenced every modern assault rifle. The M16, the M4, the AK-74, they're all descendants of the STG-44 concept. Here's where rankings get interesting. What did soldiers facing these weapons actually think? American soldiers interviewed after battles consistently mentioned the MG42 as the German weapon they feared most. The rate of fire, the sound, the suppressive effect. It dominated battlefields. British soldiers respected the Kar98k but didn't fear it. Bolt action versus bolt action. The British Lee-Enfield's 10-round magazine gave them an edge. But they absolutely feared German machine guns. Soviet soldiers captured German weapons whenever possible. MP40s, MG42s, and STG-44s were prized. Soviet soldiers would sometimes risk their lives to recover German machine guns because they were superior to Soviet designs of the early war period. Interestingly, Allied soldiers didn't particularly fear the Luger despite its reputation. Pistols rarely mattered in combat. But captured Lugers made excellent souvenirs, valuable for trade or to send home. The weapon that made the biggest impression on Allied soldiers was unquestionably the MG42. Veterans decades after the war could still mimic its distinctive sound. That's the sign of a weapon that dominated the battlefield. Here's something fascinating. German weapons tell the story of Germany's war through their manufacturing quality. Early war German firearms were beautifully made. Machine parts, careful fitting, quality control. The workmanship was excellent but time-consuming and expensive. Mid-war weapons showed increasing use of stamped metal parts and simplified manufacturing. The MP40 was a perfect example, effective but designed for mass production. Late-war weapons showed desperate cost-cutting. Quality declined. Shortcuts were taken. Some late-war Kar98ks had wooden parts where earlier models used metal. The finish was rougher. Quality control suffered. By 1945, weapons like the Volkssturm rifles showed complete manufacturing collapse. These weren't military-grade weapons. They were barely functional firearms. This decline tells the story of Germany's industrial situation. Early confidence, mid-war efficiency, late-war desperation. You can literally see the war's progression by examining German firearms manufacturing quality. Here's the paradox of German weapons in World War II. Germany was simultaneously too innovative and not innovative enough. Too innovative, they developed weapons like the STG-44 that were revolutionary but came too late. They experimented with advanced designs when standardization would have been better. They created specialized weapons when general-purpose weapons were needed. Not innovative enough. They entered the war with a bolt-action rifle as standard when semi-automatics existed. They waited too long to develop assault rifle concepts. They stuck with expensive manufacturing methods when mass production was needed. The MG42 found the perfect balance. Innovative design, efficient manufacturing, timely deployment. The STG-44 was innovative but too late. The Kar98k was timely but not innovative. Had Germany deployed the STG-44 in 1941 and the MG42 in 1939, their small arms would have given them a significant tactical advantage. Instead, they entered the war with good but not revolutionary weapons, and developed revolutionary weapons too late to matter strategically. German World War II firearms influenced modern weapon design in profound ways. The MG42's quick-change barrel system is standard on modern machine guns. Its stamped metal construction influenced manufacturing worldwide. Its roller-delayed blowback system appears in many modern firearms. The STG-44's assault rifle concept became universal. Every modern military uses assault rifles firing intermediate cartridges with detachable magazines and select fire capability. The STG-44 invented this category. Even failures taught lessons. The GR-41's problems showed what not to do with semi-automatic rifles. The Volkssturm weapons demonstrated the limits of simplified manufacturing. Some standards can't be sacrificed even in desperation. Modern firearms owe a debt to German World War II innovation, particularly in machine guns and assault rifles. These weren't just weapons of their time, they defined what came after. The verdict. So, ranking every major German gun from World War II, we get Best Overall Sturmgewehr 44. Revolutionary design that changed warfare but too late to impact the war significantly. Most combat effective MG42. Dominated battlefields, feared by enemies, influenced design for decades. Most reliable workhorse Karabiner 98k. Not exciting, but it equipped millions and worked reliably in all conditions. Best submachine gun MP40. Effective, reliable, well-designed for its role. Most overrated Luger P08. Famous but not actually superior to contemporaries in combat. Worst Volkssturm weapons. Desperate failures representing industrial collapse. The story of German firearms in World War II is a story of innovation, excellence in certain categories, but ultimately too little too late. The weapons that could have changed the war, like the STG-44, arrived when Germany was already losing. German firearms in World War II ranged from revolutionary masterpieces to desperate failures. The MG42 machine gun set standards that lasted decades. The STG-44 assault rifle invented an entirely new category of weapon. The Kar98k served reliably if unspectacularly. But Germany's weapons development reflected their broader strategic problems. Brilliant innovations arriving too late, resources wasted on complicated designs when simpler solutions existed, and excellence in engineering unable to compensate for strategic disadvantages. The best German weapons, the MG42 and STG-44, showed what German engineering could achieve. They were genuinely superior to Allied equivalents in their categories. But they couldn't overcome the fundamental reality. Germany was outnumbered, outproduced, and fighting enemies with greater resources. Understanding these weapons helps us understand the war. German infantry armed with Kar98ks and MG42s were formidable but not invincible. When STG-44s appeared, they gave German soldiers tactical advantages, but strategic reality made tactical advantages irrelevant. These weapons tell a story of innovation, of excellence, of desperation, and ultimately of defeat. The guns were often brilliant. The war they served was doomed. Now I want to hear from you. What's the most incredible World War II story you think deserves more attention? Maybe it's a lesser-known battle, an unsung hero, or a perspective we don't hear enough about. Drop your answer in the comments below. What World War II story fascinates you most? Let's keep learning together about this pivotal moment in history. ***.